There are various ways to define the four generations out there, but we know we have the traditionalists who kind of grew up in a world of scarcity. You have the baby boomers, which really grew up in a post-World War II environment when society was recovering and growing, and are very optimistic about the future, work very hard, expect the rewards that they get. Generation X kind of grew up in a dual income household frequently, where both parents might have been working, and they may have been latchkey kids a bit. They also kind of grew up during a time when there was corporate downsizing, and so some people say there might be a little bit of mistrust about corporations and institutions per se. And then lastly, the Millennials, sometimes called the Rainbows, are a very optimistic, team-oriented group that are very tech-savvy and have grown up on desktop computers and laptops and Game Boys and all kinds of tech toys. And so they show up in the world a little bit different. What's unique, though, is all four generations are human. We have the same wants and desires, but sometimes we just show up differently in the world in which we live. Managing those intergenerations is really what we're up to and about these days. And so, for example, a typical baby boomer like myself was raised in a recovering economy post-World War II, and we were taught to work hard and work long hours and be very, very committed to the work that we did. And it was very linear in its progression in terms of how we've moved through our careers. So physicians were very loyal to their patients, worked 24/7, took a lot of call, etc. For example, the millennial generation, my children, are equally as motivated, but they follow more of a non-linear path. And so to them, balancing work and life and working in teams in a very collaborative environment is just a different way in which they show up. There's no right or wrong in any generation. It's just how they show up. Our job is to really manage those best qualities in each of those generations to deliver the care that we need to for today and for tomorrow. If we look at everything from a straight line projection from the past, which is very linear and very predictive, we know that that's not the case when you're making a jump from a first curve to a second curve, i.e. moving from volume-based system to a value-based system. It takes the collective wisdom of all generations to really help an organization move through the gap. So when you're looking at your intergenerational workforce, is how do we take the strengths and the attributes of each of those generations to inform us to create the structure for what we need tomorrow in more of a value-based system versus just a volume-based system, which is you do a procedure and you click a number in that. And so it takes almost like it takes the whole village to really transform an organization. What we find is what works for a baby boomer in terms of recruitment may not work for a Generation X and certainly will not work for a millennial. And an example of that may be with baby boomers. If people ask you, well, is there a job at your hospital, you can direct them to your job board at the hospital or the job tab on your website. Whereas millennials are more tech savvy and they use Twitter and other type of applications, some of which I don't even know the names of these days, in terms of how they seek out jobs and seek out organizations. And one of the things we're finding at St. Charles specifically is millennials in particular are very interested in the mission and the vision and the values of an organization and really want to see that on materials when you're offering a job posting. So yes, indeed, you really have to look and use a variety of ways and approaches to attract people to your organization. You would customize management and communication styles. You would leverage the styles of the generation, the qualities of the generation. You would tailor recognition and rewards and effectively encourage collaboration amongst the generations, ideally through teams and appropriate assignments. So you would develop generational understanding. You would participate in mentorship programs, and sometimes we call those reverse mentorship programs, where frequently you say, well, maybe a millennial or a Generation X mentors with a baby boomer. But what I find is it's equally as powerful if I mentor with a Generation X or a millennial to understand where they come from. And lastly, improve communication styles and generational sensitivity.